Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today I'm going to be using the Cap and Gown Stamps and Dies. Wow, can't even think of the words. The Cheers Stamps and Dies, and then also the Layering Fireworks. Now you may be saying to yourself, Kelly, it's December. Graduations are not in December. And you would be correct traditionally. However, I needed this card because my nephew graduated college this fall. So this is a customized card for him. And it was one that I needed, so I figured I would share it in a video because there's a couple of different techniques. So even though it's a little out of season for most graduations, it'll give you an opportunity to get some ideas before May. Or maybe you have people who graduated in the fall as well. So what I wanted to do is, like I said, make him kind of a custom card with his school colors. Graduated from Cleveland State, which is green and gold, or green and white, depending upon like whether or not what logo you look at. So I just wanted to incorporate all of the colors, but their gowns are black. So here what I'm doing is I'm just using my Distress Inks to create a night sky. So that way I could kind of have this as my backdrop with him standing in front of it with his little, tossing his hat up in the air. I thought that would be super cute. So I'm using a bunch of blues and a little bit of black soot as well. I know it looks like trash now. I'm totally not offended. Don't click away. Stay with me. Because as we do the second layer of color, this will get much smoother. Also, for some reason, I'm not really sure why, it's always smoother in real life than it is on the camera. And I don't know if it's just because it's so, like, the lights, the way that they hit them, because you have to have so much light to do videos well. Not really sure, but this is what's going on. This is what we're doing here. And then I played around quite a bit with how to do the fireworks because I wanted them to be that custom color that matches his school colors. You obviously, if you were doing like a 4th of July card, you would be able to do them like red, white, and blue. And then I'll show you how I colored my, what is it? It's the paste. I mean, I haven't used it in embossing paste. I haven't used it in like 100 years. It's still in my drawer and it's still good, but it's like, this was super trendy, a couple of years ago. And then it kind of went out of style, but it's going to work for the purpose that I need. Now, this is one of those things. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. So I'm using my Distress Ink re-inkers. And this Mermaid Lagoon was an absolute mess. PPS. It was everywhere. I had blue everywhere. I had Smurf hands for days, but I really wanted that like hunter green color. This always dries darker than what it looks like here. And so I'm just holding my stencil in place. You certainly could tape them. Just make sure when you're putting it on that you're paying attention to the other fireworks that are around it. So that way you don't get the embossing paste where you don't want it to be. You could certainly tape them off, but don't they look so cool? They just like pop off of the background, and so I totally stand by my feeling of like this was going to be the best way to go with the embossing paste. So a couple of things to note. If I had to do it all over again, I would do like the colors at one time. Like that's how I would do it. Because here I didn't give myself enough room with where my embossing paste was. And I ended up having to kind of like hold my stencil up, and I didn't really get a great connection to the paper. So it did bleed through a little bit. Not enough for me to start again, but just a smidge. And then this just, if you've never used it before, this just wipes up with water. I'm using a baby wipe to get the majority of it off, so that I can go in and do my next color. And here's where things get interesting. So I'm using mustard seed. But then his color is gold. And so I was trying to find a way that I could make it shimmery. So I'm actually using gold alcohol ink, which did work to color it. Just to be clear, if you have alcohol inks, you can use them to color this. You don't have to use re-inkers for that, but it was yellow. It was not gold. And so I kept kind of adding it in there until I was happy with the color so that it looked, like a genuine gold. But it still didn't have the shimmer that I wanted. So then I went to my good old standard Perfect Pearls. And so I tried putting in a few scoops of that to see if I could get the shimmer that I wanted. Ultimately, at the end of the day, none of it was really too super shimmery. I'm going to be honest. But it did give me a much closer gold color. And so for that, I'm not sorry that I did it. Like experimenting and trying to figure out, what will or won't work for a card is kind of half the fun. So I did end up going with this. Now, here is why I would have done all the colors at one time. Because some of the areas, because it is embossing paste, it's raised. So there's some of the areas where I tried to get it closer to another area that was already stenciled, and I had a hard time making sure it was flat against my cardstock. And so I did get a little bit more bleed through than maybe I would have liked. Again, not enough for me to start over. I was still fine with it. But I did kind of maybe have to go in there with my, this is actually a paper, the pokey tool, guys, because that's a very technical term, the pokey tool. I did end up having to go in there with my pokey tool and kind of like scrape up some of it where it got where I didn't want it to. And then I just cleaned up I wipe them off with a baby wipe while I'm sitting at my desk so that it doesn't dry on there. This background piece is actually a watercolor media mat from Waffle Flower, and I never have to worry about it sticking to that. It always cleans up just super easy. Again, just using a baby wipe, just kind of rub it until it comes off. But like nothing sticks to this thing. It's the best thing ever. Everybody always asks, and I always forget to mention what it is because I've had it for so long. But it will be linked below in the supplies if you're interested in that. So here, I wanted to go back in now because I didn't get the shimmer that I wanted. I know it's a boys card. I don't really care. I want it to be glittery. And honestly, some boys like glitter. So, and that's perfectly okay because glitter is beautiful. So I went back in, and this time I am using Moonstone in the Nouveau Glimmer Paste. I have a couple of different options for like the glimmer, and one of these days I'm going to do a comparison video. If you're interested in that, please let me know. I am going to kind of like compare the couple that I have to see which one I like better. But this, I was just trying to fill up space and not add in any more color per se. It turns out I didn't add in enough to fill up enough space, but we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that later in the card because I didn't know it at this point either. So I'm just using some of the smaller ones to kind of like fill in those gaps, knowing that I'm going to put my stamped image at the bottom. And originally I had intended on using a much bigger sentiment, but I didn't have room for all of the things I wanted to put on there. That ever happened to you? Like, I just didn't have room for all of the items that I wanted to go on my card. So this is a great, obviously like the 4th of July, but for like birthdays, you could custom color your fireworks, or for like New Year's. These are just super fun stencils to kind of play around with. You could even like blend your colors so that your fireworks were multiple colors. That would be super pretty. I probably should have tried that. I didn't think of it until now. So now that that's set aside and it is dry, I am going to move on to the stamping. So I'm using Copic Safe ink because I am going to be coloring with my Copic markers, and that's just because they're alcohol. I don't want the ink to smear. And there is a girl and a boy, and so I stamped the boy and then also the hat because I wanted it to be like he was throwing his hat up in the air. They have some other stamps that are included in there, like the diplomas. I'm trying to think what else is in there. I made this a hot minute ago. So after, I'm just going to do the coloring now like I normally do. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll be happy to answer them. So this is for my nephew, Jacob. This is my oldest sister's son, and he is 24, and he had got his associates, and then got his bachelor's. So this is for his bachelor's. Um, so incredibly proud of him. Like, just the things that he had to overcome. And his father passed away last year. And I mean, he has just hustled through all of it to make sure that he accomplishes his things. He actually is working for a lady right now who, she's a scientist and like does microbiology experiments in her lab, and that's what he is doing for work right now. But he actually just interviewed for a position at the Cleveland Clinic where he used to work, and so that looks promising for him. Just super excited for him. We ended up, like, traditionally in our family, we do like the big graduation parties, even for like a college graduation. But he didn't really want to do that, and Rona, you know what I'm saying? So we ended up going to a hibachi restaurant, like where we all just kind of sat at our own table together because we have such a large family. It was our first foray out into taking Caitlin into the world. Um, and it really went like the best possible scenario. Plus, Nathan had never been to a hibachi. And if you've never been, like, they cook the meal right in front of you, and it's super, fun and interactive. And so it is pricey though, for real, for real. It's a little costly, but we don't go out to dinner very often. Mostly because we're cheap and also COVID. So, yeah, it was nice. It was nice to go out and about. But she slept through the whole thing, guys. Like, she literally slept through the entire meal. She didn't start waking up until we were walking out to the car. So it really went the best that it possibly could have gone. Here, just back to the card real quick. So there's a lot of folds in this particular gown. So normally I start with my lightest color and work out to my darkest. This time I opted to start with my darkest just so I could kind of outline those lines. I knew there wasn't going to be a ton of color in my image. You've got like your skin tones, your hair colors, and then this black, and that's really all I had going on, which is another part of the reason why I wanted to make my sky so colorful. So it wasn't just like blah and drab. But once I have my guidelines outlined, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to start adding the colors to them. I stuck to mostly mid to dark grays. But if you want something to look black, you have to put black in it. Just like if you want something to look white, you have to leave some white in there. That's just kind of the way it goes. You got to do what you got to do when you're coloring. I apologize for my sniffles. We have had crazy weird weather here lately. It is December in Ohio, which is normally like well below 30 and snowing all the time. But that really has not been the case. It's been kind of back and forth. What day was that? Monday? Tuesday it rained, and then the rain turned to snow, and then the next morning it was like 45 out, so everything was soggy. The dog paws were for real, guys. The muddy dog paws. If you are a dog owner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And like, I had to go out onto the deck to wipe their paws. And not even really, so like we wipe their paws, but I totally have conversation ADD today. Bear with me. Stay with me, guys. But we bought this little thing. It's like the Mud Buster. We got ours at Target, but it's like a big cup, like a big cylinder that has like these rubber pokey things in it, and you fill it up partway with water, and then you take it and put it on your dog's paw, and like you can swish it side to side, or you can take it up and down, and it cleans the mud off of their paws. And surprisingly, it works really well. But their paws do come out dripping because you've just dunked them in water, so you do still have to wipe them. And obviously, occasionally a dog kicks it over. I'm not gonna lie, that happened to me twice this week, where Molly kicked over. She doesn't really like when you touch her paws. But she had kicked it over, and then I ended up having to clean up all the water. Here I'm on to my last color, so I'm just going over everything, so that even the highlights are black. You could probably leave some of them white if you wanted it to be a really shiny object, but I didn't really want mine to be super shiny since it's clothes and it's not made out of, vinyl or patent leather or anything. Um, but yeah, so back to the hibachi. It was super fun. You know how they do the thing where like they go around the table and they like shoot the sake into your mouth. I'm a pass on the sake. I'm not interested in it. But they did it, and he accidentally hit Eric in the eye. He accidentally hit Eric in the eye with the sake, and so like his right eye was on a fire. And then they did for the little guys, and me, since I declined the sake, if they were, he offered me pink lemonade, which is what he gave Peanut. I also was not interested in the pink lemonade, because I just don't want anything to be, like, I'm not interested in catching food in my mouth, or, I don't know. It's just not for me. Not that I don't enjoy the experience of watching other people do it, but I'm a pass. So we went and did that for his graduation instead of having like a full-blown party with a bunch of people. Um, it was fun. It was a good time. Nathan thought it was super cool, like when they crack the egg and like balance it on the spatula, all that stuff. I was a little bit worried about trying to find him something to eat, just because he is a little bit pickier. Like my mom only has certain things that she eats, while Peanut is a little bit picky, like his nana. But he did ate the chicken teriyaki, and so it was fine. I, as a appetizer, I got like asparagus wrapped in beef, which also had teriyaki sauce on it, and that was delicious. So yeah, like we went and did that. That was quite a little bit ago, but she did really well for her first little, trip outside of the house. Here I'm coloring this because he graduated with honors because he's such a smart boy. They do like little gold tassel things, and so I'm putting those, like that's the gold that you see that I'm adding here, and then this image is pretty much done. I did add a couple of little highlights like on his cap. I wanted the center point and the edges to, I guess, have like a little bit of something going on. And then for the tassel, I'm going to use this little trick. So you can't see it because it's stamped in a black line, but I can kind of see it through the coloring since I'm right on top of it. And I'm going to take a gold pen, and just draw the tassel back in since I need it to be gold anyway. And then I love a big bold outline, so I'm going to go back in and outline everything, with my EK Success journaling pens. I have heard people say that they have found them in Joann's, though supposedly they had been discontinued. Or you can just use microns or Copic multiliners. They all do the same thing. Here I'm putting the dies in position so I can go ahead and run that through my Spellbinders Platinum. Sorry, I just don't have a good camera setup to do that. I cut out the cheers both out of white pieces, and then I also stamped the to the graduate, because that's what I was going to put on the front of the card, was to the cheers to the graduate. So not enough room, like just so not enough room. So what I ended up changing it to was cheers, you did it. And then on the inside, there's another sentiment in here, that I stamped. Hold on, I can't remember it. I can't remember the name of it. And now I can't find it. It's run away. But anyway, they have a bunch that you can use. I ended up changing the background of the cheers to black so that it matched my heat embossed sentiment. So now it says cheers, you did it. And obviously still, gives the same feeling. The cheers can also be used for, any sort of celebration like retirement or weddings or anything like that. It's just a good general sentiment, which, I'm a big fan of stretching my supplies. So I like to find multiple uses for them before I really spend any money on them. When I was doing this and I was getting everything set up, I realized there was not enough fireworks in the bottom portion of it. The stamp, I thought the stamp for some reason would cover more of that and it wouldn't look weird, but it doesn't, and it did. So I am going to go back in after the fact and add in just some white fireworks to kind of fill up that space. I know that it seems a little crazy that like I'm putting the whole thing together and then going back in and adding things. But because the space was so empty, it really did not even interfere with the items that I had already put on the card. I tried to take them off, but then it started kind of like pulling up my background, and I was like, nah, bro, I can't risk it. I'm already almost done with this card. Um, so I just couldn't do it. I had to try to work around the items that were already there. And if it wouldn't have worked out, it wouldn't have worked out. It wouldn't have been the worst thing ever, but it did end up being okay because that spot on the bottom was so just empty. Here, I didn't want there to be a white outline around him, so I'm just going in with some various blues. I could have tried to match up the like the way that the fireworks are. I didn't think it was that serious. I thought I could just get away with kind of the blues, blending into the background, and I was fine with that. I was fine with the way it looked. Sometimes I did have to go back in with another couple of blues to blend them, but it was fine. So this is it. This is the whole card with those added in white fireworks to fill up the space. I think it came out super cute. I am so super proud of him. I hope this gave you guys some ideas of things that you can do, even though it's kind of out of, the month's order. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.